Welcome to hell. I'm taking all you podcast listeners with me to the deep, dark dungeons of hell. I'm taking your ears to the pits of flaming hell. Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids' candy. I'm taking it all with you.
Wait, who invited you? Who invited you to this podcast, dude?
This is the Eynon Brothers podcast, baby. Welcome to
Okay,
hell.
Satan, you weren't invited to the podcast. You're gonna get the hell out of here. We're just sitting here. We're gonna tell some scary stories that happened in our lives. You weren't not invited.
What's up? I thought I got an email.
No, you didn't get an email, dude.
I'm pretty sure.
No, dude, we didn't even CC you on anything.
There's a demon66699 at Yahoo, right?
No, dude, Evan,
Shit,
you weren't
you're in the
supposed
wrong
to.
place.
You weren't supposed to get that email.
God damn it.
Satan, I'm sorry. I mean, look, it was good having you here, but you gotta go, man.
Well, you guys are so mean to me.
I know, but look, buddy, you can come back maybe another time, or we'll
I'm here for eternity.
yeah, we'll do lunch another day, all right, man? It was,
Well, what are you thinking, like Olive Garden or
I don't know, man. I was thinking more like flame broiler.
flame broiler?
Yeah, do you like flame broiler?
Yes, because it heats the meat up with flames from hell.
Okay, that sounds
And
good.
hot sauce from hell.
Okay, you gotta
It burns your ass like hell.
look, Satan. I know you got a million things to do. This is like your time of the year, but this podcast just is—it's not for you, man. This is the Eynon Brothers podcast.
Well, I thought it would be cool if I just sat in for a little while.
It's not. It's
I know.
not. It's not cool. It's not cool.
Please?
Satan,
Please.
you gotta go.
Just for 10 minutes.
No,
You guys are so
sorry.
cool.
Dude, who knew you were so sensitive? We didn't know you were so Satan.
It's just, you're supposed to be scared of me.
You've been looking forward to this day for a
Yeah,
long time.
pretty much.
Okay.
All year long. It's my favorite.
Okay, I see you.
It's the shit.
You dressed up.
Yeah? Yeah.
We let you in there on the
Do
intro.
you like my tail? Has a pointy thing at the end.
Yeah,
Very
it looks
scary.
good, man. That's your season. Yeah, it's not work. You gotta try new things though. You gotta
I'm
get.
just gonna help myself to a bowl of cereal.
All right. Satan is gonna have a bowl of cereal. Tommy and I are gonna kick off this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another podcast. We are here. Woo! And we are gonna.
Party's here!
That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up?
It's Halloween, so whether your fat ass is eating candy or you're just you're handing it out these days because you look at a bowl of candy and you gain 20 pounds.
Yeah, you're choking out a candy apple that has a razor stuck in it. Hey, it's all good, baby.
Yeah, and so this is it's a strange time of year. You get like a lot of people get really into Halloween. Dude.
Totally.
Like, they don't know like what the whole history is. Right?
I went through to your drive-through right here at Pepe's.
Yeah. Today?
Yeah, earlier.
Oh, nice.
And dude, there were cobwebs all over the bushes, all over like the speaker. I was like, oh, it's kind of tacky.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's this is like the most ghetto portion of down
Of course, Rite Aid had everything set up like 3 years ago. They're always so advanced. Like, it's like summertime, and it's like, oh, well, they have Christmas decorations up now. Awesome.
Yeah. Dude, they sell that same like Brax candy, like candy corn.
Yeah.
Like it looks like the bag almost looks kind of foggy, where it has like that white film look because
It's probably because it was made like 3 years ago.
yeah, like nobody buys candy corn anymore.
Do you know how to eat candy corn?
Yeah, you just you bite off one color at a time.
No.
You
You
keep
open
going.
the bag and you pour it directly in the trash.
Well, you can do it like that too. I mean, look, that candy corn it looks like it's been in that bag just forever though.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to.
It's just
freaking
like
eat that.
melted candy sticks with sugar. Are you guys ready to get scared?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you better be.
Yeah, you better be sitting in your room with the light on, man.
Yeah. Under your blanket.
You might not make it back tonight.
You might not.
We're gonna tell you some scary stuff that's happened.
It's gonna scare the
All the
living
truths
piss out of you.
That's it. All the truths are gonna come to the surface.
Are you ready?
Tonight. Are you ready to take this journey?
What do they got, Mitch?
with
What do we
the-
got
with
for
the
'em? What do we got,
Eynon
baby? What do we
Brothers
got?
Podcast. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna kick it off with we're gonna tell you guys some scary stuff that's happened to us in our life, and we're gonna do like a top 5. Tommy ended up coming out with 10 things. I was
I
shocked,
did.
man. You came up with 10 stories.
I did.
And what we'll do is we'll go back and forth. And since I think I have like 6 or 7. And I was like, dude, I thought I was like going above the call. Like,
Yeah.
I was just gonna do 5. I was like, oh, I'll come up with 6. And you're like, hey, I have 10.
I have some like all the way from when I was like a little kid all the way up to, recently.
All right, dude. Well, let's kick it off with one of yours since I have less, and
Okay.
then
And you guys got to pardon me. I've been sick for the last week, so I probably sound a little weird, but bear with me.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll kick it off with yours, and then we'll go into like the other stuff. Like we're gonna talk to you guys today about like scary movies and scary music or whatever like that. But first we're going to
It's
start
our Halloween edition, so we want to bring some scary material to you. Stuff that's relevant, and let's kick it off. So, dude, the top 10 scariest times of my life. I'll kick this off. Was almost drowning in our neighbor Jay's pool.
What?
Yeah. So those big almost like solar things that heat the pool up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were just messing around on that thing, and I just jumped in because I could think, I could walk on water. I'm 10 years old.
It was like almost like a big tarp.
It's like a big tarp. It has like
goes over
those
the
big
pool.
little bubbles in it.
Yeah.
And I fell on it, and then it just started like all sinking in around me, and then I started to sink, and then like I was just like, "Whoa, dude!" And I started to freak the hell out, and because it like sucks you tight.
Yeah. It's like falling on a tarp over a pool, which I'm pretty sure people have died like that.
Yeah.
They for sure
And
have.
I freaked out, and like he ended up like one of our friends just like handed me those pool strainers, and then like I pulled myself out and got out. That was probably one of like the earlier really really scary times in my life. Just jumping in like an idiot on that pool cover, and then just started caving in on me, and I freaked out. So that's one.
Yeah, man. I'm going to talk to you guys about this trip that I went on. I went to Calvary Chapel Downey, and they would have a high school trip where you could choose between going on a mission trip to Mexico, or you can choose on going on a mission trip in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were going to go to Mexico, of course you had to be a part of all these fundraisers to come up with the money, or your parents could just front it, and then you could get to go to Mexico. If you went to the LA one, you didn't really have to save up any money, but basically the point of either trip that
Did I go in this?
Jack?
Did I go on this?
No, you did not.
Okay.
You went. I did go to Mexico with you once, but I think it was with used to go.
We
to
went
a
to
church
build
called,
houses.
Yeah, we went with
Okay,
Downey.
never mind. This is a different
We went
event.
with Downey First Christian. This was when I was going to Calvary Chapel Downey.
Okay.
For high school, and so of course I chose to do the Mexico trip because it's like I don't want to go to I just want to go to Los Angeles, like any other time. So I do all the fundraisers, and then we're going to go out to Mexico, and the point of, like I was saying, was to, you go and spread the gospel, and you talk to, as much as you can, because at that time I had, 1 year of Spanish under my belt,
Mm-hmm.
So there's other people there that are going to translate, and you're basically there just to do the Lord's work. And we had this buddy on the drive up, and his name was Chris. And back in high school, it was our buddy Chris and Garrett and Mike and of course my best friend Jack and our friend Steven. And when you're gonna go up on a trip like this, you're taking all these bunch of vans that the church owns, and Chris starts telling this story on the way up while we were driving up to Mexico from Downey, California. And he was telling us how his cousin had come out the weekend prior, and that his cousin kind of wanted to see the city a bit, and they wanted to go check things out.
Mm-hmm.
And they came across a fortune teller location. He's like, and I guess he was telling us, we got excited. We saw the palm reading stuff and all these card stuff, in the front, all those. There's a bunch of places like
the
that.
movie Big.
Yeah, or Big, or like Pee Wee Herman or something like that. And he's like, basically they went in there, and they wanted to ask him his fortune, and they're going to read palms, and there's cards. Yeah, exactly. And so he tells us that his cousin was got his fortune told and said this is going to happen to you, and just a bunch of good stuff. But then he said that the gypsy, or whatever you want to call it, the card reader, I don't know, told him that on the 7th moon that he was going to die. And she didn't tell him how, and but basically he figured out what day this was going to be, and it was supposed to be the last day of our trip in Mexico. And he's telling us all this, and of course we're like, yeah, right. Exactly. We're like, yeah, right. And so he's like, yeah, don't say anything. You know, it was a couple of the youth pastors that went up with us to this trip in Mexico and everything. And so we're up on this trip, and I think it was the first day.
Wait, how old were you?
Well, we were seniors in high school, so we were
Okay.
17. And the first day, we were going to go down to like Ensenada, and we got into this bus.
Ensenada?
Ensenada, and we were supposed to all get into this one bus, and we were supposed to go to Ensenada. And a couple of the youth pastors that could translate for us. Yeah, a couple of the youth pastors that could translate for us were gonna basically, help us speak to people. We're gonna give out food, and he's like, all right, guys, let's load up on the bus, and it's maybe 30 kids, because they would do 2 or 3 different trips throughout the year, and they would break it up. So there's like maybe 30 of us that were there.
Yeah.
And everyone's getting on the bus, and then Chris gets on the bus, and then Jack. I'm talking to Jack and Steven, and they're like, we don't want to get on the bus with Chris,
Mr.
because they're
Bad
thinking that this bus is gonna like go off like the side of a cliff or something.
Sure.
So they actually get into a separate van with one of the youth pastors that's driving behind the bus, and mind you, like, this bus is going to be going up all these steep, windy hills, like these roads out in Mexico. Like, I remember at one point we were super high up on the side of a mountain, and this road was so slim, and our bus's like rear wheels. I was looking out the back window, and I could see like Steven and Jack laughing and pointing at us like through the windows, and I was like kind of scared. And I remember looking over at Chris, and he was just like dead silent, like thinking, is this it? How do I go? And the back of the bus wheels started to go off the side of the road, and it lost traction with the bus. The bus was struggling to get back up, and I'm looking out the side of the window. It's hundreds of feet of a fall, and I'm just thinking, this is it. I'm gonna die. This bus is gonna roll off the side. It's gonna be a story in the paper, and that's it. Like, I'm done. And then finally, they actually get the bus to like pull off the side of the road. We get maybe 100 feet, and then we get pulled over by Policia.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bus stops.
Policia.
Yeah, we get pulled over. Policia comes on the bus, and I'm wearing like a United States Army jacket that was given to me from one of Dad's friends. He gave me like a U.S. Army jacket, and so he starts looking at me like kind of giving me weird looks and everything like that. And the Policia like starts inspecting bags and everything like that, and everyone's just like getting like kind of weirded out, And so we finally get up to the freaking place. Everything happens. We get back, and a couple of days pass. And the night that he said he was supposed to die, he was like laying in his room. We're all like sitting there in the room, basically just waiting for Chris to pass away.
Jesus.
We thought, we didn't know what was gonna happen. So it's getting later. It's not quite midnight, but we all think like something's gonna happen. Like at midnight where Chris is gonna die.
Yeah.
And we don't know how it's gonna happen. And then Chris is laying there, and then he starts like getting really weird, dude. Like he starts acting weird and saying weird stuff. And then we all start looking at his eyeballs, and he has like these weird yellow lines in his eyes. And
what?
Dude, I don't know what it was, but it's true. He did have he had these weird things that started happening. You know what I mean? And he wasn't like barfing up blood or anything like that, but we all thought like this is it. Like he was like transforming something. He was turning into a demon or something like that. And everyone was we're just like making ourselves scared, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're scaring each other just by, like what about this? Oh, Chris has a demon in his body. I don't know. He's gonna die. And there was 1,000 times I think during that trip where we thought that it was gonna happen. And the ones where, you got to remember, I really thought this bus was going to tumble off the side of a mountain. And so with those, I kind of feel like that was probably like one of the scariest moments. I remember being very scared. Like during that whole week, like that something was either going to happen to our buddy or our entire group. So I don't know. That's just like, that's not the scariest thing, but that's like the least, one of the top scariest things.
Yeah.
So
my second one would be when I got hit by a car.
When was that?
Yeah, dude. So when me and Mitch were younger, we had BMX bikes where we would ride to school. And it was like, our bikes were like everything to us. We went everywhere. And this one day, I was riding back from school, and I was just, flying down the road. And there's this mobile home park, and this old lady just pulled out a little bit too fast, and I hit basically where the side of the car where there's like the wheel and then the door, and I flew over the hood, and I have a helmet on and everything, and luckily like I wasn't like, I didn't get like badly injured or anything. And she like got out and she's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" My adrenaline was just running so hard that I was just like, "Yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay." And I just like wanted to just like get back on my bike and like just keep going. And she was just like, like, should we call an ambulance? Like, what do you want to do? Like, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like, I had some scrapes and scratches and bleeding a little bit. And
you were probably more scared about the damage you did to her car.
No, I mean, my adrenaline was just going so freaking like high.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I got hit by a car.
Yeah.
And I flew over the hood, and it dented my my whole front wheel.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, you know. And so I think I walked my bike back home, and I remember Mom and Dad were home at the time, and they're like, "Hey, what's wrong? What happened to you?" And I was like, I got hit by a car. And they're like, "What?" And they're like, where, what happened? Like, and I was just like, told them. And I remember Dad threw my bike in the back of his truck, and he's just like, "Let's go there." Like, you know, we're gonna go find this freaking lady. And we went.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, dude.
When was that?
This is, man, I was probably like 9th grade or something, 9th or 10th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I was riding back from like a friend's house or something, or something like that. And then so they like jumped in the car with me, and then we went and found where this old lady lived, because I knew what her car looked like.
Yeah.
And you know, so I think it had like a little dent in it and stuff. And I remember he like walked up to the door and knocked on it and was like, "Hey, did you hit my son?" Like, and like he got all like, not in her face, but like he got pretty upset. Just come find out it was just like a little old lady, and you know, we didn't press any charges on her or anything like that, but that's pretty much the gist of what I remember from that event. That was so long ago. That was probably one of my scariest moments when I was younger. What else you got?
Well, I wanted to tell a story about when I used to work at the Lakewood Mall. Mm-hmm. So there was like a legend at the Lakewood Mall where, I guess, you know, it was the Lakewood Mall where I used to be a security guard. We used to be an open air mall. And then it became like an enclosed mall, like, you know, years and years later after it was built. Mm-hmm. Even our dad used to work there at a place called Clifton's Cafeteria.
He did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He did. Like, they used to have like this like cafeteria called Clifton's, and he would work there as like a server or something like that. But anyway, there's inside the Lakewood Mall, there's actually an underground section, and it runs from the very north side to the very south side. And what it is
north side, south side.
It's basically so that truck drivers can go underneath this, and it's a giant long tunnel.
Oh wow!
They can go under, and they could deliver to the stores underground, and then the product can be brought up into the stores from underground.
That's cool.
So you don't have all these giant truck drivers all parked along the side of the mall outside, and it's just clogging up all the parking and everything. So I guess the legend goes that in the tunnel, when they were pouring the concrete back in like the 1950s or 40s, who knows, the daughters of one of the construction workers was caught in the concrete, and she basically like suffocated under the concrete, and then they laid
some bad parenting.
Yeah, and then basically she died and got caught in it, something like that.
Wow. And
so I guess she was chasing, like she was playing with a ball down there, like where they were laying concrete, like
Stupid
fell
kid.
into it and died. So when I worked there, it was probably like the second month that I was working there, where I finally heard this legend, you know, of like the that there was going to be a ghost down there of this little
She's
girl
still
and everything
alive.
like that. And part of the job when you worked at the Lakewood Mall was if you were working on the swing shift, which was like this 2 to 10:30 shift. And when I was hired, I would work the mornings. But every once in a while, you would have to cover for someone. You know, someone would call off, you would have to work the swing shift. And if you were working the swing shift and you were the patrol officer, basically you're out in the little Jeep, you would have to go to the tunnel, this underground tunnel, and lock up both the north and the south ends. And they would have these giant gates, and you'd put the key into the this like slot, and you turn it, and while you were holding that down, these big giant metal gates would come down. And after you close both sides, you walk the tunnel. So you walk from the north end to the south end just to make sure everything's clear. And I was brand new, and they had just hired this other guy like 2 weeks after I was hired. And his name was Carlos. And they said, hey, we're going to have you guys both just walk the tunnel, make sure everything's all code 4, make sure everything's clear. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of knew about like this legend, and I had heard about it and everything like that. And there were automatic lights down there in the tunnel, like that would just like sometimes they would stay on, but for some reason they would just be off. And the security didn't have access to the lights in the underground tunnel. It was like the maintenance people. And basically we were walking the tunnel at this one day, and we got like to this like one section, like halfway through, where it was super, it started getting really cold. It felt really, really chilly. And all the lights in the tunnel shut off. At that one moment. It got really cold, it felt like. The lights turned off, and then we both just click our flashlights on, like, what the hell? And then we try to radio into our dispatch, like, we're like, hey, dispatch, we have the lights have gone out in the tunnel. Any updates on what's going on? And it's like, you know, they're trying to return messages to us, but it's just not going through. And we don't even know if our message is going out, because it was these old handsets, you know, like old radios from back in the mid-2000s,
freaking,
but that they had purchased probably in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I remember we both were shining our lights because we heard like this like noise up ahead, and we both shined our lights. There was like almost what looked like this pile of like shrapnel and like shopping carts.
Yeah.
And we saw something look out from the right, like it peeked out real quick from the shopping carts, went back, and he saw it and I saw it. I'm like, dude, what was that? And we're like, hey, what is it? We're like, what's over there? Come out. And dude, nothing came out. But at that moment, something almost like a faster than the speed of that you could possibly throw something or fling something, a piece of metal, came flying at us. It was like, ting, and it bounced off of, they had these giant, just vents, you know, that were like running through this tunnel. And this like screw landed in front of us, like this long metal screw. And it landed right in front of us, dude. It was like bent out of shape and everything. It was crazy, man. I just remember it got really cold. The lights shut off. This metal thing just ding, landed right in front of us. At this point, we're both just like freaking out, dude.
It's like maintenance. We're like, hey, we're gonna play with these fools,
dude. We went up, and there's two old timers working. These two old guys.
Yeah.
And it was like at 10 o'clock at night. It was like almost the end of our 10:30 shift. And we're telling this guy named Camp and another guy named Barker. We're like, hey, what's going on? They're like, oh, yeah, we can't see anything in the tunnels, the cameras, because the lights went off. We're like, did you hear our radio? We're sending out traffic. No, we didn't hear anything, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going to go down there one more time with the Jeep and check things out. You know, I'm thinking I got a Jeep this time. You know, I'm going to be all code 4. I go down to the north end of the tunnel. I open it up with the gate key. I bring the Jeep in. It's like Jurassic Park. I go into the tunnel.
Did you have the little lights on?
Yeah, and then I get out of the Jeep, and then I shut the gate from the inside. Then I'm gonna go do the same thing at the other end to get out. My car, I'm driving it. I have the brights on. I get to halfway into the tunnel, and the car completely shuts down.
No way.
Yes, all the power, everything shuts down, dude. I can't start the car. Everything just died right there in the middle again. And I open the car, dude. It's still pitch dark, by the way, because now the lights are off on my car.
Oh shit!
And I could just hear like the like this like subtle breeze kind of that's just making it through the tunnel. Just
it's a draft.
Yeah, it was just like this draft, and it was freezing cold. And I wanted to turn the air on. I'm trying to put traffic out again. Now it's not working again. And I'm like, have my flashlight, and I'm like trying to lock the doors manually. What I ended up having to do was get out of the car with my flashlight and go up through this like stairway corridor that was just like looked like something out of Saw. And it's like basically a random corridor that I knew about from the center that you can get back up into the mall.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I was a little more than walking. I was kind of sprinting out of there. I told them, look, I have a Jeep that's completely shut down in the center of the tunnel.
Yeah.
They're like, what happened? They had to send another Jeep down there, and I had to walk back down.
Freaking Bermuda
to
Triangle.
jump start it out. Yeah, it was scary, dude. I don't know what that was, and to this day, I don't know what the heck happened, but that definitely really made a mark on my life. Where I was scared at that moment. Like I really was scared at that moment. It was creepy, dude.
Dang.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't ever go into the Lakewood Mall tunnel, or else.
Yeah, that's kind of off limits, anyways. So my next scariest moment, man, was we were in Newport. We're going to a festival, and we met up at my buddy Tim's house. Shout out to Tim and Kim. So it was me and my buddy Jason, Tim, Kim, and probably there's probably 10 of us, dude.
Yeah.
And we're just partying, raging, just before the event, had some drinks, just chilling out, and then we're like, all right, cool, let's go out, and because we were able to walk to the event from their apartment.
Yeah.
So we cruise out of the apartment, and they're on like the third story of their apartment or so, and they're like, all right, let's just we'll just take the elevator. So this is like maybe like a 5 or 6 passenger little elevator, and we're just like, let's just all cram into it, and let's just freaking we'll just take it down and we'll just be smashed.
Yeah.
So we all literally smash into this elevator. And I'm talking, like, dude, just sardines. Just
You don't know if it was meant for that weight. Huh?
No, it wasn't, for sure. I mean, it was probably like double of what it's supposed to be. So we all just jump in this elevator. We're all, like, just kind of tipsy. We're like, hey, come on, let's all pack in. Hurry, let's go. And so we hit the down button. The door closes. And then all of a sudden, you go, dude. Mm-hmm. We're like,
done.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, we were just like, started pushing the button. Come on, down, 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 down. And it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
We were stuck. So we started pushing the little fire alarm, right? And it just goes ding, 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 ding. And it was supposed to go to like maintenance or like somebody that, like whoever controls like the elevator.
Yeah.
And it was nothing. Like nobody was like responding. We're like, hello, help, help.
Yeah.
We're screaming. After like 10 minutes, it started getting hot.
Oh, nice.
Everybody was like, no, not nice. Like it was already a hot day.
Hell.
Yeah, it's hell for sure. And so we were like, dude, we're gonna like suck up all the air. Mm-hmm. Like we're gonna die in here.
Nah, you're not gonna die.
And I started freaking out, dude. Like I was kind of like trying to be like, oh, this is crazy, but in the back of my head, I'm like, shit, dude, this is like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So I start pushing the top of the elevator to see if there's any way to like get out.
Right.
And we're in an elevator shaft. There's no way you're gonna get out.
Yeah.
And so I'm just keep pushing up the little, just like the little roof part, and there was like cold air, so the air would come in.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, dude, getting a little bit of fresh air. We were stuck in there probably 30 minutes.
Dang, dude.
And it was like, the girls were starting to freak out, like, oh, what if we can't get out?
Mm-hmm.
And so my buddy Tim started to call the landlord. He's like, oh, dude, I gotta tell the landlord. And like, then they weren't picking up. And he's just like kept calling and calling. Hey, we're stuck in an elevator. Please, we're here.
Yeah.
And then finally, 30 minutes later, like one of the maintenance guys comes. He's like, hello.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
We're like, hey, get us out of here.
Yeah, it was M. Night
like,
Shyamalan's
okay,
devil.
hold on. And, he started like working on the elevator, and probably another 10, 15 minutes goes by. Like, dude, we're in here for 45 minutes,
Yeah.
And it's pretty scary, dude. We're like, we know that he's kind of like working or like trying to do something, and then finally, dude, the elevator lights turn back on, and it slowly goes back to the very, very bottom of the shaft, and the door opens, and then we all
You
just
lucked out, man.
He was just like, "Hey, you guys aren't supposed to be in there," you know, like,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry, it was our mistake." Oh my God, like we were just like so relieved, like, to just get out of there. We were so claustrophobic, like we were just like arm to arm, like sardines in there, and like you can't. There's no wiggle room to like, all right, let's just sit down and wait.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't. There's too many people in here. So that was probably one of the scariest times, man. Being stuck in an elevator, sardines.
You're claustrophobic?
And I'm not claustrophobic. There are some people in there that were.
Right.
And you know,
I definitely can get claustrophobic sometimes when I'm around just way too many people. Like it can happen at
amusement parks
amusement
or
parks,
like just
for sure. You know, if there's just too many people, I just want to like just have like this power where I could just like shoot everyone away from me, just like poof, back away. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But dude, yeah, that's
that was a scary moment for sure.
that's crazy. I have this one other story that I thought about only because I was talking about the Lakewood Mall, and it was another time where this is probably definitely one of the scariest things that ever happened to me. And these are in no particular order. I think I just wrote down some scary things. But
Same with mine. These are all over the place.
this one I called it the Lakewood Mall gunman. So this is, again, I was working security, Lakewood Mall, and it was my morning shift. You know, you'd work from 6 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And one morning I go in, and the mall doesn't open until 9 o'clock. And there's very few places inside the mall that open before 9 o'clock. Like Starbucks will have employees there early because they're going to get the coffee ready. Or people at Target are walking around at the mall.
Yeah, they're setting up.
Yeah.
They're getting the store ready for customers.
Exactly. So it's just
Cleaning.
going to be employees. But what the mall did also was they would have two corridors basically at the mall that were open 24/7, and one of them was over by the Seas Candies, and one of them was over by Bed Bath & Beyond. And so these corridors, if you didn't know, they're open 24/7, so you can actually go into them any time of the day. And the only people that really know about it are like these old folks that they're called mall walkers, and they come into the mall, and they're these old
like
people,
jogging.
and they walk in the morning, and they want to go somewhere where they feel safe. And so these corridors are open for them, and they can walk around the mall. So it's not unusual to see somebody walking around the mall at that early hour, you know.
What time was that? Like 6 or?
This was
7?
probably 6:30 at this one particular morning. And 6:30 turns into 6:40. I'm sitting there at dispatch. My eyes are heavy. I'm 18 years old, and I'm sitting there, and this young man comes up, and he's standing there at dispatch, and I'm looking at the camera. One of the cameras that we had would pan over our own dispatch area with our cameras, and I'm looking at it, and I can see that you can see yourself in the camera sitting there.
Yeah.
And I realized there's a guy standing at the dispatch looking at me. And I turn around, it's this young African-American boy. He's probably 20, 21. And he's just standing still, and he's got a backpack in his hands. And I stand up, and back at this time, the security and the guest services booths were both built into one. So it's like split right down the middle. And I go over to him, right where the little gate is, you know, to get in and out. And I say, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" I walk up, and he's not saying anything, man. He's just dead silent. I'm looking at him right in his eyes. His eyes are all watery. He's probably hopped up on something. I say, "What's up?" And he looks at me, and he leans in, and he goes, and he puts his hand into his backpack, and he said, "I'm loaded, man. I'm loaded right now." And I'm taking it, of course, as I've got a loaded pistol pointed at you.
Yeah.
And he keeps looking beyond my shoulder and at something on the other end. And what's over there is a safe. And it's a safe for the guest services, because they would make sales like Visa cards throughout the day, you know, and they would put cash in there, but they would empty it every night, and they would do the deposits at the bank.
Yeah.
And the only ones with access to the safe was the guest services, and the security. We didn't even know we didn't know the access code to get into it. And he keeps looking at me, and he's looking at the safe. And I turn around, and I see what he's looking at. And I turn around, and I see that he's looking at the safe, and I say, "I can't open that safe, dude. If that's what you're thinking." And he looks at me again, and he goes, "I'm loaded, man." And I said, "Dude, I can't open the safe." I was like, "What do you want?" And I'm thinking he's just gonna shoot a round right through my chest at this point. And right behind him is the store, and it's called Demo, and they had like shoes in the front window.
With the cute shoes?
Yeah, like, you know, and the latest sneaker. And I don't know what came over me or why I think I should say this, but I said, "Did you see those new shoes?" And at Demo, he turns around and looks at the store.
That's a good pattern interrupt.
Dude, I said, "Hey, did you see those new shoes?" He turns around, he looks. Now, behind me on the other side of the dispatch is a low counter where people would come up and talk to guest services, and that's right where they would make those sales.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he turns around, I do a 180, and I run a jump right over that low counter.
Yeah.
And he starts yelling, "Hey, where you going?" I'm booking it, dude. I have a tiny little flip cell phone, and I open it up. And at this time, I was dating some girl at this Romano's Jewelry, and before that guy came up,
you guys didn't have any of those buttons underneath the counter to hit?
We didn't have those.
Oh,
we did not. Before he came up, I had been talking to her at one of the counters, and when I jump over the low counter, I realize she's standing at one of the pillars in the mall watching this whole thing. I'm running, and I'm pulling out my cell phone. It's like a little flip cell phone to open it up, and he starts yelling, and now he's starting to chase me. As I'm opening up my cell phone, I'm thinking, and I'm seeing her standing by the pillar.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, do I grab her? Do I call 911? Do I put this out over the traffic on my personal security radio? So I have all these things. I'm just feeling like I have to just do it all right away. I see her. I got to get her to safety. I first put out the traffic on the radio. You know, security. There's a armed male at the dispatch. I didn't see the gun, but I'm sure he has one. And I said it, and he's chasing me northbound through the mall towards Target. I'm running now towards Target. I grab her. Let's go. And now I pull out my cell phone. I'm on the phone with 911 explaining the exact same thing as we're running. It's insane. I'm running by kiosks like Starbucks, and I'm telling them, get down. There's like one store, jewelry store that's open. I tell her, get in there and shut the door, lock down. She's with people she doesn't even know. And they lock down. He's still chasing me now.
Oh, shit.
You know, but he's like slow. He's like sluggish. I at one point like stopped behind a pillar, and I'm looking at him, and I need to make a U-turn because the anchor store that's on the side of the mall that I'm going towards is still closed. So I'm gonna try to start running back towards the direction he was coming towards me, but on the other side of the mall, and see if I could juke him and get out of it.
Yeah.
And he sees me. I'm trying to go a little left. He's going a little left. I'm going a little right. He's going a little right. And so I find like this loophole through like this kids play area with like, you know, like those mechanical toys you pay $0.25 for. And I run like through it. He's like trying to like get around it and hurry up, and he's chasing me. I end up booking it all the way to the underside of the mall, out of the Bed Bath & Beyond corridor. At this time, I'm off the phone with the cops. This guy has been running after me through the whole way. I'm shocked he hasn't fired a few rounds at me for whatever reason this guy's motivated by. I don't know. And I get out of this corridor, and there were already police officers on this side of the mall.
Oh, wow.
I run out. They're yelling, like, what's going on? You know, because they don't have a 20 on this guy. I've completely left dispatch where all the cameras are. Nobody's watching. Nobody can see where he is, and I wasn't going to stay there to get shot for whatever reason, for not being able to open a safe. And I get out there. He comes flying out the corridor as soon as he's out there. Get on the ground! Get on the ground! They're yelling.
Nice.
I'm behind a pillar, and then the fat security supervisor barely catches up to like the whole thing. And he's this guy named Dale. He's like, hey. And that guy, he got arrested. And, he got booked and everything.
Yeah.
And so they questioned everything. And from what I found out, he wasn't armed. He had a bunch of, like, all he had in his backpack was tons and tons and tons of stirring straws for coffee.
What?
Yeah. He had, like, those little white straws for coffee. And
Imagine he got caught up to you and he's just like, hey, man, I want to let you know I'm loaded. Loaded with alcohol.
He was loaded on something, all right. Yeah, he was loaded, dude. And
I gotta steal this coffee, man.
Yeah,
but
there's
dude, so much coffee in the world, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And
He's like, I'm just trying to make it to start. But here's the crazy part: was after all that happened, we had this like big meeting, and a security meeting, and they treated it like it was like they were like, well, you didn't see the gun, and you shouldn't have said that, and what, because when I was running, I was telling other people like at Starbucks, and they had like some other places that were, like they would sell like breakfast croissants and whatever, and I would yelling like, get down, and they saw like this guy chasing me.
It's still a threat.
It was, dude, and they were like, I didn't even, of course, they didn't write me up, they didn't fire me, but they told me like, you didn't really know what was going on, and he wasn't really armed. Was the gist of it.
How the hell are you supposed to know that?
I didn't know, but he told me I'm loaded. I took it as.
That's all.
And when you got your hand stuck in your gun and you're clearly eyeballing a safe, that was enough for me.
Yeah, dude.
So long story short, I lived to tell the tale. He didn't shoot at me or anything like that.
Dude, he was chasing you though, like a freaking zombie through the mall.
Mm-hmm.
It was
intense,
would scare
man.
the shit out of anybody.
That was intense. It was very intense. And that was one of the scarier things that's happened to me, where you really feel like somebody's gonna shoot you in the back, in the back of your head or whatever, or start popping off shots.
He threatened your life.
Yeah, he did. It was either that or I could have just knocked him out right there. I don't know, if I could go back in time, maybe that's what I would have done. Just knock him out real quick, dude.
Why though? I mean, I would have rather been running and be safe than even take the risk, because what you got in that backpack? I'm strong.
It's weird.
Who the hell would know that?
It's weird because I really felt like I had a gun pointed at my chest. And
did he have his hand in the bag?
Yes, he did.
Oh,
and when you just don't know, and you really feel like there's some a pistol pointed at you, it is such a strange feeling, dude. Like you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Like it's just like this guy, he could just kill you right now.
Right.
And that feeling, and that might be the worst moment ever. But I don't know about this, like the scariest or the creepiest, but it was intense, dude. And and that one goes down. I'll never forget that. Forget that.
Another scary time, dude, was probably last year when I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I remember that.
Dude,
yeah.
So there was a lot of things that like came into play with that. Like the weekend before, I went to Vegas, went pretty hard, a lot of drinking and whatnot. And at that time, I was studying for a bunch of tests and whatnot for work, and so like, in sales you have to really perform at like a really high level. And I was drinking freaking probably 2 Monster energy drinks a day. On top of taking like focus pills and this and that and just all kinds of stimulants, right?
Yeah.
This one night, I'm laying in bed with my wife and I'm like, I start to get this like weird like panic, and I'm like, man, I don't feel good. My wife's like, well, what's wrong? She's like, I'm like, my heart is like pounding like crazy, and I'm laying in bed, not doing anything, And I might have had a beer or something that night. And so I get up and my heart's just like pounding like insane. And I'm like, I just like short of breath. And it's just like, I'm not feeling good. And she's just like, well, let's maybe go take a shower. Just go see if you like, just try to relax. And my heart felt like it was skipping beats. Mm-hmm. Which is not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And, probably taking a hot shower is probably not a good idea because that probably made it worse. But I went to bed, And I remember as soon as I got almost asleep, I think you called me one night. You were like at a party or something. You're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm not feeling good." And I'm just like,
You're on the verge of
it like woke me back up, and then like I couldn't go back to sleep for hours. Because when I'm like, here's the thing: when I wake up, it's hard for me to go back to sleep.
Right.
You know, it's tough. So, you know, a couple hours later, you know, it goes by. It's like probably 2 a.m, and like I'm like, all right, I could probably go back to sleep, and my heart's still beating like crazy.
Yeah.
And the next morning, I wake up and I'm like, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, I didn't sleep really well. I told my wife, babe, I still feel the same way that I felt last night. Mm-hmm. She was like, what's wrong? I'm like, my heart is going like insane right now. And she was just like, all right. She's like, do you want to go to the doctor? I'm like a part of me didn't want to be like a little biatch. And then part of me wanted to be like, oh, I'm fine. You know?
I'm fine, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Nothing's wrong.
I'm not really sure what the normal like resting heart rate is, but I get to the hospital. We go to urgent care because, actually, let me back that up. I call Kaiser. They have like a nurse by phone, and she was just like, you know, what's wrong? I was like, I don't think I'm having a heart attack, but it feels like that, you know. And she's just like, all right, well, how many, you know, beats can you count? Let's just count for 30 seconds. And I'm like, I'm shaking so much that I can't even really feel like my own heartbeat, and I can't count and all that crap. And I'm just like, it's beating like really, really fast, and like I don't really know what to do. She was like, well, we can either call an ambulance or you can go to urgent care. She was like, could somebody drive you to urgent care right now? Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah. So my wife drives me to urgent care, and I get there, and they like strap me up to just like right outside. You know, they put me like in a little wheelchair, and they're like, wow, dude, your heart's going really fast right now, dude. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on. Like, and they're just like, all right, come on. So they wheeled me into like the hospital. They like hooked me up to an EKG, which is basically a heart monitor. Yeah. And they have, you know, something on my right arm, something on my left arm, something on stuck on my 2 parts of my chest, like one on my abdomen. Like, they're freaking all over the place, right? Yeah. And they're just all stuck to me, dude. And he's just like, wow. He's like, your heart's going like 190 beats a minute or something like that. It was going like, yeah. You know, it was like a freaking rap song. And I was low-key freaking out. So he goes, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to like hook you up to an IV. You know, we're going to put some stuff, you know, back into your system. You just replenish your fluids and whatnot. And then we're going to give you these tablets. And if that doesn't work, if that doesn't slow your heart rate down, what we're going to have to do is shock your heart. Mm-hmm. And that will basically reset it to like normal. Right. And he was like, we'll have to puncture your skin, or it's going to fucking shock your heart, dude. I was terrified at that point. Uh-huh. And I'm looking at the monitor, and I could see the beats per minute. I'm just like, dude, this is insane. Like, I'm 31 years old at the time, 32 now, holler back. And I'm like, dude, I'm not an old man. They're like, this doesn't happen for people your age. Like, this is not normal. And they're like, you know, what's been going on? I'm like, yeah, I've been taking this, taking that. And they're like, the energy drinks, man, they're not good for you. So, dude, energy drinks are terrible for you. So that's one thing that I've tried to like.
You bought 2 Red Bulls today.
I need the cash back, but yeah.
Dude, well, look.
Like every day, I don't do that every day. Plus taking all kinds of like stimulants and stuff, and then coming off of like a crazy bender in Vegas, that had weekend. And it was just like Monday. Uh-huh. All of that, like, you know, probably came into play. And, you know, I don't know if I ate something or whatever it was. And then finally it just took me like, it took me a good while, for probably like a good 2 hours for it to like calm down. And then, you know, there was like a Filipino doctor. He's like, oh, the heartbeat is starting to come down now. Yeah. It is, you know, it's looking better. And I'm like, oh, cool, man. And finally just started kind of slowing down. I started to feel like a lot better. And there he was like, I recommend you staying in bed for the 2 days. Yeah. And I was like, all right, let's get a doctor's note, you know. And I just relaxed for a couple of days. And Dude, that was honestly like a really scary moment. You remember you came to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: since I don't have 10, I'm gonna count that as probably one of the scariest moments ever in my life, because I remember the phone call, or not phone call, but I remember the text that I got from Ivy's phone that, hey, Tommy's heart was shocked, and we didn't know the whole backstory and what was going on with you, but I remember how rough it was for me to hear that.
Yeah.
And
it's all right. That was probably
so. We actually had to stop the podcast there because I had a moment, man. Because I just remember like how scary that was for me, dude. Like I remember, I got that text, and dude, I just, you don't know what someone's going through, So in a different way, that is freaking scary, Like if you think your brother's like, something's happening. Or something. So, dude, let's get past this story, dude. Why don't you go? You move on to another one. I don't like that story.
My brother's getting choked up. It hit the whole family pretty hard, and like it's just a freaking scary because I'm young, and it's like, you don't really, he probably wasn't like ready to get that text, and like, Tommy's like in the hospital and like all this stuff. So yeah, it's rough. That was a rough moment, man. Moving on to the next story before
to go ahead and tell one more, man.
Huh?
You're gonna move on and tell one more story.
So okay, man. So these are all out of order. That should have been like number 10 for sure. The next one I'm gonna put my wife on blast here. 2007. My wife and I have been dating. No, maybe 2007, 2008. My wife and I have been just dating for maybe less than a year or so, and it's April Fool's, and of course everybody thinks in April Fool's like you're gonna get joked on, like you're gonna get a scare. It's okay, it's April Fool's, aha, blah blah blah. I get a text that says I'm pregnant.
Oh my God, I remember this.
And let me just tell you like where I was. I was living with my parents. I'm like 22, 23, broke as shit, working at a gym. Like, my dad's like on the verge of kicking me out of the house. I have no money. Like I'm just at this like breaking point in my life where I'm just like, oh my God. And then I get hit with, I'm pregnant. I'm like,
that's
screw
scary.
You. It's April freaking Fools, man. Like, dude, I can barely afford to feed myself at this point. I'm like, maybe $1,000 in my bank account, the max, like, and I'm getting thrown out. Rent's like $800 where I'm going. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm gonna be able to like survive at this point.
Yeah.
And I got hit with that text, and I'm like, oh my God, this couldn't have came at the worst time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, there's no way. Yeah. And I'm just like, it's April Fool's.
That's just like the text you don't want to get, dude.
Yeah. And I'm like, no.
You weren't thinking it was April Fool's either, right?
I was. I knew it was April Fool's. I'm like, oh, April Fool's. She's like, no, I'm serious.
Oh, okay. So she wasn't letting up on it.
She was playing it good. And I call her, because, with text messages, it's kind of hard to, like, kind of get, like, the emotion out of it, So it's like, they could be playing. They could be like, just kidding. And I call her, and she fakes crying. She's like, I'm pregnant. I don't know what I'm going to do. And, like, I'm like, are you playing with me right now? It's April Fool's. I know you're just screwing me. She was just like, no, I'm serious. I don't know what I'm going to do. Are you in, like, asking me all these questions? And I'm like, holy crap. She's pregnant, dude. Like, that whole day, she played it off the whole day till the night.
Right.
And I was just like, are you serious? Like, don't play with me right now. This is not the time of my life to play with me like this. And she's just like no, I'm serious. Yeah, like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. And so, like, I get off work, I go home, and I'm just like, damn, man, I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, babe, are you serious? Like, don't play with me, please, please. And she played it off the whole day. And then, dude,
no comedic timing from Ivy, dude.
No.
She's just like,
and then, like,
I'm just gonna keep going.
I'm joke. Like, yeah, dude, she's playing it off. She's like, this fool. And, dude, I'm like about to cry because I don't know what to do at this point.
Yeah.
And then she was just like, April Fools. And I'm like, no.
Yeah,
and I'm mad. Like, I have never said more cuss words to a single individual in my life than I said to her. don't fucking call me, like, and that was when we broke up.
Yeah.
I broke up with her for that shit.
This is just a dark podcast.
This was a bad time, dude.
Yeah.
It's like probably 2007, 2008, and I broke it off with her, and I'm just like, dude, screw this girl. She effed with me that whole time. Like, how dare her do that to me, dude? And dude, it was just such a crazy feeling that, like, how overwhelmed I was with that.
There was light at the end of the tunnel, folks. They ended up getting married.
So fast forward like maybe like 8 to 10 months, I hit her up on MySpace. When MySpace was around, and I was like, hey, what's up, Ivy? How you been? I'm pretty good. I'm living in Huntington Beach. I'm at surfing. I'm tan. I'm jacked. Like, what's up? I'm living with like new roommate. Just bragging to her. Yeah. I'm like, hey, I'm having a party. You should come by. And like, she ended up coming by, and I was just like, damn, she's hot. I'm just like, oh man, I can't. And then we kind of rekindled the relationship, and that was probably like the only like thing we've ever fought so much about. Like, and I don't know, man, it's been all amazing ever since. But we like still joke about that time. But yeah, man, that was definitely a scary time in my life. Another time, I'll tell you a pretty scary time talking about my wife while we're on this subject of talking about her. About 2 years ago, on my 30th birthday, we went to Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. You were supposed to go. How dare you?
Sue me.
So
I was probably in college, right?
2 years ago?
Yeah.
I don't know what you were doing. You made some stupid excuse, but anyways, we had a great time. Finals. We partied so hard, and it was fun. And there's this one day that we were on the beach, and we were at what was it called? Mango Deck, and they're having all these contests going on. There's this big stage. They're like, okay, we're having a push-up contest. Okay, let's go.
With t-shirts.
Who can do this? And a bucket of shots for everybody.
How many coconuts?
Okay, how many push-ups can you do? And then the next contest was a wet t-shirt contest.
Nice.
And Ivy was so drunk. She was like, I'm going. I'm like, no, you're not. Yeah. You're a married woman, and you're not going up there and doing a freaking wet t-shirt contest. Two of my friends are sitting right next to me. I'm like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm going. I'm gonna go.
It's scary.
Being a drunkie. And I was like, we got into a fight. And then she just like stormed off. This is Mexico.
Yeah.
Like, and she's hammered. And I'm just like, whatever. And then after like a little while, I'm like, I should probably go look for her.
Yeah.
And it's my wife. I'm like,
right.
I'm not gonna like just like let her just be wandering around hammered by herself. So we start looking for her. I'm like, I sent up a search party with me and my friends, and we're looking everywhere, and we can't find her. Mm-hmm. And it's like losing a child at this point.
Right.
I'm kind of freaking out.
Mexico.
So,
dude.
and it's Mexico, man. Who knows? Like somebody just pulled her in her van or something.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm looking probably for an hour. And then she's not at our hotel or anything like that. I'm scouring the beaches, looking in bathrooms, looking at bars, like just walking around. And then finally, like I go to like this part of the city, and I just see her. She had like a bright T-shirt on, and she's just like walking around like a zombie. And I'm like, Ivy, come here. And she's like, no, just being stubborn like she is. And then I'm like, come here. And like that, at that point, that like completely sobered me up. Like, because we're having such a great time out there on the beach and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, don't ever walk away like that. Like, what are you doing?
Dude.
It's like losing a kid, dude. Like, and that honestly really scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, I can relate. Like, I remember, like when we were kids, Michelle, our sister, got lost, or she didn't get lost. Like she just had wandered off. As kids tend to do.
Yeah.
Once from home and once while we're at Disneyland, and I remember seeing like what that does to parents, and it's just like everything at that moment changes.
Yeah.
I remember Dad yelling at I remember like Randy was mowing his lawn. Randy, help me look for my daughter. And he stops because he just knows like that you got to help look for his daughter.
Yeah.
Michelle's missing. That's it. They're looking everywhere for her. At Disneyland, same thing. Where's Michelle? She's just gone, and you don't know that they're just like they're standing behind a curtain or they were joking around, And we ended up finding her at the garage at our own house.
Yeah.
And so it's a scary feeling, and from a husband or from a father standpoint, you can imagine that those kind of reactions and those kind of feelings are only magnified, you know. But the next story I wanted to tell was actually when we were both kids. So you're actually involved in this story, and it's called we're gonna call it Brian's Alien. But so when we were in Scouts,
We
were young kids. Yeah, we're both Eagle Scouts, if we haven't told you already. So that means that we basically just grew up camping and hiking and backpacking and things like that. And we used to go to this one place. It was called Camp Tockwitz, 2 hours north, and it's out in the in the middle of the woods. And what a lot of people that don't realize, you're growing up in Los Angeles, is what it's like to be out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And just what pitch dark really means. And there's a whole different meaning of sleeping under the stars, and it's not sleeping in your backpack. Yeah, or in your it's not sleeping in your sleeping bag, in your backyard.
Yeah.
And like, oh yeah, I had a real outdoors trip, but we're talking about, we're going out to these cabins that were way out in the middle of nowhere.
It's dark. There's no street lights.
Yeah. And so this one night, we go up there with our whole scout troop, and there's it's mostly kids our age, and we were all between the ages of, I think must have been 10, you might have been 13 at the time. And there was scouts that had recently became Eagles, that were a little older, 17, 18, that joined the trip. And this one particular night, our dad, who was the scout master, basically said, "Hey, we're gonna go on a night hike tonight."
Yeah.
And we're gonna go out to this one meadow that's in Tockwitz. And
we're gonna go see the stars.
Yeah, we're gonna go look up the stars, and we're all just thinking like, oh, we don't want to do this. This is like, we've been hiking all day.
This is lame.
Yeah, it's just stupid. We want to hang out in our cabin, talk about girls, and talk about whatever's going on. And we just think this is just a lame idea. We don't want to go on the hike. And so sure enough, he gets us all outside. We all got our sweaters on. It's freezing. We're gonna go hike out in this meadow.
And the meadow was freezing.
Yeah, we get out there, and it's this just giant meadow in the middle of Camp Tockwitz. And like Tommy said, there's no street lights. It is pitch dark.
It's just your flashlight.
You cannot see that far, and really the only light is the stars and the moon. And what we didn't know was what was about to approach us was going to scare the living daylights out of everybody. Yeah. And we're all standing there, we're looking at the stars, so all of our attention is to the sky. Mm-hmm. And in the meadow, we all see these like 2 or 3 glowing lights. They're coming closer.
Just
they're
a big
closer.
dark shadow.
They're coming closer, but they're really high up, like maybe 10, 15, 20 feet. You were there. It gets closer and closer, and then you see this big white head and these giant black robes underneath the white head, and there's glowing eyes on this giant creature.
Huge teeth.
That's just running towards us, these giant just teeth that just
huge
look razor
arms.
Sharp. And we're scared, we're screaming now. It starts like doing these crazy lunges towards us, where both of these giant long arms with claws on it are clawing at us. Now, we're all running. We're scared, just scared. And there was, even the adults are running.
Yeah.
We don't know what this is.
One of the adults almost crapped his pants.
So, we're all running away. And it's not until 30 seconds in where our dad, who knows what it is, needs to say something because there's kids going in every direction into the woods.
Right.
And so we don't get lost in the middle of nowhere and go running off the side of a canyon. But guys, come back. It's our buddy Brian Bischoff. He was an older scout. And Brian was always super intuitive.
He's an engineer.
Smart guy, engineer. He created out of a backpack. When you go backpacking, you're a scout. It's this giant backpack. Brian built this.
He constructed this monster.
He had constructed a monster of PVC pipes. Just super, stories high up into the air.
So when you think about it, you have a backpack that's strapped to your back. There's a PVC pipe running up the back like a spine. Up that spine.
Multiple.
Yeah, there was a couple running up. And then he constructed this huge paper mache head. And inside of the eyes, there was 2, like, glow sticks. And they were, like, glowing red.
Yeah.
And then it had a huge mouth on it. And it had a bunch of jagged teeth that were all made out of PVC pipe. And then he had, it was all, had, like, a black, like, silk robe.
Giant black robes on it.
But then he had these 2 arms that he was holding with his arms that were strapped to his, like, arms, if you will. And they were like...
He had his arms...
They were probably like 5 feet long.
His
each.
arms were up in the air and controlling these giant other arms, just like
he was like
mechanically...
It was like a puppet almost. Like
it was...
But it was massive. It probably stood, because he's probably 6 feet, and then it probably stood another 6 or 8 feet above him.
It was a scary looking...
It was massive.
Yeah,
and it was in the dark.
Yeah, in a giant dark black meadow when you could see the
And it
eyes.
had huge hands on it, I remember.
Yeah.
Like claws.
Dad knew about it. Brian told him that he was going to have it, and he's like, hey, bring him out into the meadow at this time. And I remember Dad told us that the only other person that knew, and we're talking, there was other adults that were out there, other adult scout leaders that were out there. Mm-hmm. He had to tell one old guy who was on who forgot his heart medication that weekend. It was Dave.
Yeah.
And he had to tell Dave, hey, guess what? There's going to be Brian Bischoff's coming up. He's going to scare the guys. I don't want you to have a heart attack, basically. But my favorite story is about Jack's dad, Lance, who was out taking a piss. And he was about 100 yards off from where Brian was making his entrance. Mm-hmm. He was near Brian, and he had stopped early on the trail so that we were going to keep hiking and he can go out there and take a leak. And Brian made his entrance from that corner. And he was over there by himself, and he was, I guess, taking a leak. Yeah. And he fell short of words. Like, he just didn't know what to say, and he was, like, trying to hurry up and zip up his pants and everything like that. He's like, holy crap, what the heck is that? Yeah. And then by the time he could, like, bring himself to words and say something, Brian had already lunged all the way out there into the meadow with us. We're running 100 different ways. It was so crazy, man. I can't tell you the level of horror in the eyes of these young 10, 11, 12-year-old scouts.
There was 15 or 20 of us.
It was horror, dude. It was so scary. We thought it was this giant,
that scared the
leaping
hell out of
creature.
me.
Yes, nobody planned something like that, but Brian Bischoff.
Dude.
And Brian Bischoff, I hope he's listening. Shout out for probably bringing one of the greatest scares of my life.
Yeah.
Out that night. And anyone that hears this that was there that night knows.
I could piggyback that story.
Yeah.
Well, I have 2 extra things to say since you brought that up. After that night, there was a meteor shower.
Right. I remember that.
We all laid in this meadow, and it was great. It was very cold, but seeing, like, when you're up in the mountains and there's no streetlights and just plains and just crap and, like, no fog or whatever, you could see the stars, like, there's so many. Like, here in, like, when you're here in the city, you're like, oh, there's like 9 stars. Out there, there's like 9 zillion. You're like, whoa, this is insane. It's so cool to see. Yeah. So there's a meteor shower, and we're so high up in the mountains, we're seeing like crazy shooting stars, and we're seeing like freaking Armageddon shit just shooting by. There were some very big ones that were like, they would go by.
It was like, beautiful, man. It was beautiful.
Double rainbow.
Yeah, people go all the way out to see Haley's Comet, and it's like, dude, we saw a meteor shower.
That was so sick. To piggyback that story, I remember that after that, like, when Brian was like scaring kids, I got the idea to scare kids on camps. Really? So I got my dad and we got this this mask, and it was like a miner's mask, and basically it was like this old wrinkly man mask, and then it had like some like long brown hair, and I would throw a beanie over it, and I'd just dress like a bum.
Yeah, I remember this.
Okay, so we're in
Calico,
Joshua,
right? Or
Calico or Joshua Tree.
Calico for sure. You and Joey, right?
Yeah, so I scare the shit out of Joseph Chacon.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we're all like, hey, let's go play hide and go seek. Like, that was like our favorite thing to do, like play hide and go seek, like look for each other, and like this is massive space, and my dad's like, hey, throw that mask on, dude, when you're out there. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I throw it on. I'm like looking for him, and I find Joseph hiding in a bush
Right.
If he hears this, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. He will vouch for this shit. And I'm like, hey, and he can't see me. He's hiding in a bush in the distance, and he thinks I'm maybe like one of the scout leaders or something. And
Right.
I'm like, hey, come here. And he's like, what? I was like, come here. And he was like, oh, he thought he was in trouble or something. So I start walking up to him a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And finally, I get close enough, and the moonlight hits my face, and he sees this old, disgusting, wrinkled up face, and this long, disgusting brown, oily hair with this beanie pulled over it. And I'm just like looking like a homeless person, and I start running at him. And I'm like, come here, boy. And I see his eyes get completely all the way open, like just see the whites of his eyes, and he's just like, ah! And he starts running, and I chase him through the desert. I'm like, come here, boy. And I'm just running after him probably for like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he just like, he's just so freaking scared. And then I was like, I'm just kidding. You know, I was messing with him. And then we would have campfire. I remember we had campfire like a year later. My dad told me to bring the mask again. And my dad starts telling this scary story. And, you know, since we're on the scary stories topic, my dad was telling this ghost story to all these little kid scouts. And, you know, I'm like already 20, 21, 22 years old. And, like, I'm already out of scouts, but I'm just here for, you know, the camp out and the good time. Mm-hmm. And my dad was like, okay, there's a ridge up there. And he goes, I want to tell a ghost story about, like, this old camper that, like, haunts this place.
Yeah.
And then he goes, I want you to come out. You know, there's this fire. They're
right
all,
after the story.
Yeah. There's exactly, and they're all like listening, because my dad's an amazing storyteller. He can tell a story out of his butt, dude. It can be like about anything, and he's just good like that. And he starts telling this crazy ghost miner story, and all of a sudden I start walking down these rocks. And he goes, he's haunting this place, and then I start running full speed to this camp, and he's like, what is that? And he like shines the light on me, and I'm just running straight at him, and they're like, ah! And they all start running to their tents and stuff. That's so freaking funny.
That's awesome. There were now that I think about it, there were a lot of scares while we were in the Scouts. Right?
Yeah,
like, just a lot of people like scaring each other, and you know, always trying
it was
to like,
so much fun.
And there was actually real dangers in it too. Like I remember, like
you could trip over a rock, cut your head. Like
yeah, man, I remember. Yeah, and that one kid, what was his name? Not Jeremy Peterson, Jeremy Copeland, putting like hot dogs next to that one kid's tent so that bears would come and like sniff his tent.
I know. They told us
he got like sent back from scout camp because bears. If you weren't basically when you were in Scouts, you couldn't have so much as a piece of candy in your tent when you went to sleep. You would have to put your
They
candy,
told us that story.
your food in bear bags.
There's this kid. He used strawberry shampoo, and he washed his hair, and he's like, and the bear ripped open the tent and gnawed off
slashed
his head.
into his tent when he went to Scout camp, and he chewed on that kid's head.
Do you remember that one time that we were all like just chilling in our tents, and then there was a bear in Talkwitz that walked through our camp?
A couple times. Yeah, the bear would always come, but he would, and it would brush up against your tent, and it was
brush
scary,
up against your
man.
tent, and you're like, oh my god, you're frightened.
But
you
if
have
you
a couple
didn't have,
Skittles,
if you didn't have, you were always scared. You know, you might have had a piece of beef stew on your shirt or something like that.
There was one time
kill
that,
you.
So every campground had a 50-gallon drum of water, just in case like emergencies.
Right.
And I remember the bear like went and looked at that thing, and then just like drank a little bit of water, and then with his big old bear paw just pushed it over and just like douche, and like water went spilling everywhere and woke everybody up. That was crazy.
I remember having a bunch of like we left coolers with a couple of like sandwich meat inside of it, and leaving it inside of like our shed. The bear, it was like an open air shed, like almost just like a
it's like a half garage.
Yeah, and so it was accessible, and the bear went in there and like had pulled the actual cooler out. Like bear, I guess
ripped it up.
I guess like through evolution, bears have become smarter. They say like where it's like they've learned how to break.
Yeah,
into
they're on
coolers.
Facebook now.
Yeah, they've learned how to break into coolers. I guess you know they know like what a cooler is, that it contains food, and
boo boo.
They're smart, man. They know what a cooler is.
Yeah.
They know what it looks like. You know,
they're like,
big blue
this
thing.
Coleman's easy
It's
to
a big
into.
blue thing full of bologna and turkey.
No bologna, he got in there.
Yeah, but that's crazy. There was a lot of things like that.
But he like
in
ripped
Scouts.
that whole cooler open, and I have a bunch of stuff, but kind of tagging back to Mexico, it was the day before my 30th birthday. And when you're 29 and it's your last day of being 29, and it's like tomorrow is gonna be my 30th birthday.
I have not experienced that.
It's
day
kind
yet.
of weird, dude. It's when you think
coming
about
up
it,
on it.
when you think about it, you're like, damn, dude, this is my last day in my 20s.
Right.
And I kept thinking about that. I'm like, this is kind of weird, man.
Yeah.
So the next day is my 30th birthday. We're staying at the Ryu.
Ryuken.
And dude, so it's an all-inclusive resort. We're just having so much fun, dude, and just taking too many shots, and I'm pretty hammered. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. So we're in this pool that's overlooking the whole ocean, and there's a bar in the pool, right? So it's like you just cruise up. You're like, hey, I need a Corona. It's all inclusive. You know, they give it to you, and you don't have to pay anything. And we're just chilling, talking to people from Canada and like all over the place, making friends we're never ever gonna talk to again. And so I'm just drunk, just swimming around the pool like a little kid.
Yeah.
And in those pools, they have bar stools that are cement, that are built into the pool that you can sit in at the bar.
That's cool.
And I'm just cruising around, and I hit one of those bar stools on the bridge of my nose right here.
Ouch.
And I'm like, boom! I'm like, oh, dude! And it like
Busted
woke
your
me
nose
up.
open?
And I hit it, and I didn't realize it busted my nose open, bad. And I'm just like, oh, dude! And I get up, and I'm like starting to walk out of the pool, and there's these two big old fat guys from New Jersey, and they have like chains on. They're like, hey, bro, you're freaking bleeding all over the pool, bro. Hey, don't you know who you're here with, man? Hey, come here. And I'm just like, what's going on? And they're like, you're bleeding all over the place. Look at you, you're bleeding all over.
Yeah, man.
And I like touch my nose, and I
salami.
could see all this. Yeah, I could see all this. Yeah, New Jersey, jacked and tan, brother. And I could see blood just running down my face. I'm like,
dang.
Oh my god, dude, what happened? I cut my nose open, like I had no idea and I was freaking out.
Yeah.
And
that's nuts.
And I get up and I was like, I called my wife. I was like, babe, what's going on? She's like, and then, you know, when you're like wet, so the like, blood's just all over my
just
face.
streamlining at this point.
Just all over, dude. And it's so unhealthy right in the pool. And I get out of the pool, and I sit down, and right away, like a medic guy comes out of nowhere. He's like, hey, so scared, and he's like, you gotta sit down. And he starts like cleaning me up and speaking Spanish. I don't know what he's saying. And I'm just like freaking out. He's like, you're probably gonna need stitches, bro. You're gonna need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, oh my god, dude, it's my 30th birthday. I'm just having fun, and now I gotta go to the freaking Mexican hospital and just get stitched up by some dude. This is
They're
nasty.
gonna pack maggots in your wound and let that eat away the raw
Thank
flesh.
God.
You're done.
This huge black woman who's a nurse. She was like, "Oh, baby, let me look at that. I'm a nurse." You know, she's in her big old, she's in her one-piece bathing suit. You know, let me look at that. Let me look at that. She's like, "Oh, it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad."
Yeah.
And she was like, "All you need is a butterfly Band-Aid." I was like,
Nice.
"Oh, really?" So he cleans me up, puts a butterfly Band-Aid, and like, you know, the rest of my trip I have a freaking Band-Aid across my face for all my pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
But it healed. It was fine. I didn't need to get stitches. But now I have
One
a
of the
nice,
scariest moments
beautiful
of your
scar.
life.
Okay, yeah, I have a nice, beautiful scar on the bridge of my nose. If you ever want to see it, that was definitely one of the scarier times in my life.
It was scary because of the wound itself, or because those Jersey guys, you thought they were gonna kill you.
It was everything, like hitting your nose and kind of like not you know when you get hit in the nose, like it feels crazy, like it feels like your whole face is like tingling. And then those guys saying, hey, you're bleeding all over the place, and freaking me out more than I needed to be. And then the guy being like, yo, you need to go to the hospital, like a Mexican hospital where you don't have insurance, where you just got to go get stitched up by some dirty needle. Like, I'm just like thinking about all this stuff in my head, and I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
And it's my 30th, dude. I'm just trying to have fun. And it's like, girls just want to have fun. But dude, that was crazy, man. That was pretty crazy.
One of the times that I thought, well, from physical wounds, dude, where I thought I was gonna die, when I used to work over at Carlson Mechanical.
I thought you were going to say when you chopped your thumb off.
No, well, no, that wasn't. I didn't think I was going to die then, but this is where I actually thought I was done. When I was working for a machine shop when I was 18, I was done with security, and this was right before I got the security job. And there was this machine shop I got hired at. It was with my buddy David, and we were basically cleaning these machines that were meant for cutting metal and lathes, and we would oil up these crazy machines and everything like that. There was this one machine that would put holes right into like actual I-beams, and shoot water onto the I-beam, and it would, like, the blade would come down and it would just cut right through it. And I remember there was this one part of the machine that was like, it was like this knob that sticked out, but it looked like it was like a double-ended knob, and you could basically, it was meant for, like, turning with both of your hands, and it caught my shirt, dude. And we had these, like, work-issued Carlson Mechanical shirts that started, it was like the knob was twisting my shirt, and therefore it was pulling me into the machine, and it was chopping at the same time.
Oh my god. That sounds like something off that new movie, Jigsaw.
Dude, this thing, it had caught my shirt. It was turning super fast, and I was getting pulled into the machine. There was this other, like, druggie that was working there. His name was JJ. And I'm getting sucked into the machine. Dude, I can't stop it because I can't reach there's like this emergency stop button on the machine.
Yeah.
And because, dude, I can only go as far as to where I'm standing now at this point. And I'm like, JJ, turn the machine off. I'm going to get sucked. I'm going to die. If JJ wasn't there, let's say this, my shirt would have kept getting sucked in. I would not have been able to get out, because as soon as they caught it, it was already, like, super tight on my chest. And I was bracing myself against the machine as it was ripping the shirt. Like, I'm pushing against the machine to not get sucked into this chop blade. And so it's like, and it's ripping the shirt, but it's still pulling my torso in nonetheless. Yeah. And if JJ wasn't there to turn off the machine, which he did, thank God. If it was the one thing he was put on this earth for, that's what it was. I would have gotten sucked into a machine. My back would have, it would have been my torso first into the machine, with my legs and my back, the back of my legs and my actual back being tacoed together, and me being, like, sucked in the machine and completely ground up. It was that. Dude, those machines are just like, they can cut through metal, they'll cut through bone, and they'll cut through flesh too. You're done, man. If you get sucked in there, you're done. You'll die, and that machine will keep working. Gnarly. I almost got sucked into that thing. I don't know what the machine was called. I wish I did, but I only worked there for a month, so it was just me.
You're like, well, that was fun.
Oiling and cleaning machines, yeah. And I only worked there for a month, and that's probably why.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I caused.
Eynon Brothers weren't made for friggin' machine shops.
I caused enough damage to that place.
Jeez, that's gnarly.
Yeah.
So my next scariest moment, dude, was I was kind of.
Is this your last scariest moment? How many? No.
I have a couple more.
I have another good one too.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead.
So you probably, I don't know if you remember this, but so I've always been kind of the black sheep in the family. I was always known for sneaking out, going to parties, going to do this and that. And this one night, I don't know if my parents were home or not, and I snuck me and my brother out. I was like, let's go to a party, dude. So we go to this party, and it's around the corner and, like, up the block from our house. And we're just chilling in this backyard, right? And we're just partying, chilling. There's music.
I think I know where you're going with this, and it is freaking scary.
Okay, good. Right. And we're just, I think I probably gave my brother his first beer. He's like, "Oh, that's gross,"
Oh man.
We're just kicking in the backyard. Then all of a sudden, there's like pop, pop. Yeah. There's gunshots.
Yeah.
In the backyard, and somebody in the alley behind us was, like, shooting. Right? They were like, I don't know if they're shooting at each other. This is Bellflower. It's ghetto as hell. And All I can think was, where's my brother? Like, where is he? So I was like, I don't know if we were next to each other.
There
or
were
something.
three of. I actually think it was me that drove there that night, and I just got my license, and it was me and you and John LaFalla.
Okay.
And we were all there, and I was in the very back, right next to the alleyway.
Yeah.
And I think you were inside where that little table was built.
We were separated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I remember like running and like trying to find you, and then we booked it.
Right.
And then there's like a helicopter came out, like, and we just jammed home.
But of course, we knew there was a shooting, and everyone at that party went ballistic.
Crazy.
But
it was like Fast and the Furious when the cops come in there. It was like,
whoa,
hey,
dude!
everyone's like
5-0.
scattering like roaches.
Yeah, it was crazy, you know, because somebody's getting shot at, and you were looking for me. I mean, would we have left without John if we couldn't find him? Maybe. I'm just kidding. Sorry, John, we love you, but
I don't remember John being there.
John was there.
Okay.
He was definitely there and he was one of our Bellflower Bellflower brethren.
Dude, he's our brother. Yeah.
To where we didn't want to leave him either.
All I remember was trying to find you and getting the F out of there.
Right.
Yeah. And that was like my main priority.
I remember that night.
Dude, that's probably that was one of my top scary moments when I was younger.
And I remember also at that party, I had just started smoking cigarettes, which I've quit since, obviously, but I had a pack on the table in the house.
You chewed a pack of
and
chews.
You were trying to leave so fast that in order for me to grab them, it was one of those tables that was built into the wall. And, like, you would have to actually, like, dip into the table. There's a bunch of people there trying to get out. And you're like, forget it, let's go. And I'm like, no, let me grab. And you're like, let's go.
Yeah.
And we booked it. John was there. We grabbed him somewhere on the way out. We got in the car. The helicopter was above us.
There's like police coming in.
It was a giant light. Somebody probably died in the alleyway. And
dude,
it was crazy.
Remember that?
It was very intense. Like a lot of these stories, I hope like there's such an intensity that was there. It was insane, dude. And that was just like. And that was in just a standard Bellflower house. Like that, there's crazy things like that. It wasn't so unheard of in Bellflower, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
I want to tell a story that this is probably my scariest moment in life, and so it's almost like two stories, in that I have to tell you a backstory, in order to tell the current story, and we're already I think at an hour and a half ish.
It's all good.
So I'm just going to go through this thing, and it's important that I hit every detail because of the way that this story really hit me and why I thought it was scary and why it was scary to me. So the backstory is this. In the 1950s, before I was alive, there was an author. His name was Roald Dahl. And,
how do you spell that?
Huh?
How do you spell that?
RAHLD DAHL. Roald Dahl.
Okay.
And Roald Dahl used to write, he wrote some horror. And most people will know him because he wrote Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
Which, in and of itself,
I didn't even know that.
If you look at it, there's some weird moments. Like when they're in that tunnel and there's like chickens getting their heads cut off. There's strange moments where in a movie like Willy Wonka, you'd say this isn't a child's movie, this is an adult's movie.
Sure.
About how you should raise your kids and don't raise them to be brats. But anyway, Roald Dahl used to write short pieces for newspapers, and he wrote like this one piece for I think maybe like the New Yorker, and it was called The Landlady.
Okay.
And since he wrote that, I think it was maybe 1950, 55, something like that, 56, I don't know. When he wrote this piece, it was called The Landlady. It took place in London. It was a short story that he wrote for the paper. And it was about this traveler who basically...
By the way, sorry to cut you off. It's ROALD DAAHL.
All right, well,
Okay,
excuse
cool.
my memory. But
Okay.
yeah, who knows how to spell Roald Dahl? He wrote the... and then look up when The Landlady came out, when he wrote The Landlady.
Okay.
So he wrote The Landlady for the papers, and it was a story about this guy who is like this traveler, and he was in London one night, and he needed some place to stay. It was getting late, and he sees a bed and breakfast, and it's all lit up, and it looks really nice and toasty inside. He sees like this old lady. She's walking around. He's like, oh, okay, this looks like a nice place to stay. Knocks on the door, goes in. Basically, she welcomes him in, offers him some tea, and he's drinking tea. He's talking to her. He starts feeling sleepy, and then he looks at the wall. He notices that there's like stuffed animals everywhere, and then the old lady starts telling him that her brother's a taxidermist, and then he starts to look at other things. He realizes that there's this giant parrot that's like in a cage, and he's like, is that stuff too? She's like, oh yeah, that's stuff. My brother, he did that for me. And long story short, she keeps offering him tea. He feels more and more tired, and then he wants to go up to sleep at this point. And he tells her he's ready to go to bed, and she's like, oh yeah, you'll be staying on the second floor, and here, let me see you up. And so she goes up. He starts feeling so tired. He sees like another person on the second floor. He goes up to them. He realizes that person, like, he sees is stuffed, and that this whole place is just filled with people that have been taxidermied.
Wow.
They're all dead. And basically this bed and breakfast is like a death trap, you know, like where this old lady, she poisons you with tea, and you're gonna die. And if you realize that, you've already been poisoned.
Okay.
So I want you to just take that story and log it in, and now I want to tell you another story. And it all relates to this. And just remember that story about the landlady is a lot of times in textbooks in middle school and in high school, and I think by the time I graduated, I had read it twice. And so fast forward to 2000, this 10 years later, 2015, 2016. I'm working for the sheriff's department as a CSO. I basically take reports for missing kids or burglaries or grand theft auto or theft by access card or identity theft.
Yeah.
I got a call for identity theft this one particular day. And I drive to this house. It's in Lakewood. I'd never actually been in this one street that the call was at, and I was so shocked. You know, I was like, dude, I thought I'd been in every street in the city. And I go to this one street, and every house around it was just nicely kept. And this one house that I got the call at was just this one dank house, you know. It just looked like fall year round right in the front of the house, you know. It was just like, you know, orange leaves, and it just looked like it hadn't been mowed. And so I get out, I had my clipboard, I had my uniform on, I got all my paperwork ready to take this one report, and I know all the questions to ask. So I get out of my car, park right in the front of the house. I walk up, and before I knock on the door, I'm looking at the front window, and the front window is the kitchen. And it's one of those windows that kind of sticks out of the house, of the kitchen, where it hangs out. And it has these, like, little, like, you remember chinchillas, where like it would like be like a human head or like an animal, and you would water it. Chinchilla.
Oh yeah, chinchilla pets.
Yeah, and then
Chia
like
pets.
and it was kind of like that, but it was like these doll heads. So there's a bunch of doll heads in the window, and there's plants coming out of their eyes, out of their mouths, out of their noses.
Wow.
So it was just weird, man. And so I'm looking at that, and I'm like, okay, like, that's weird. But I knock on the door.
Come in.
As soon as I knock on the door, there's an answer. There's an answer. Like that.
Yeah.
Less than a second, the door opens. Somebody was waiting on the other side of the door. Is it this old decrepit lady from The Wizard of Oz? Is it some nasty, just disgusting old wizard? No. It's this young lady. She's maybe 30, 32, 33. And, you know, she doesn't look decrepit or anything. You know, she doesn't look like somebody that would have chia pets of human heads in her window either. But she answers the door. Hey, how you doing, I say. She says, well, I'm really great, but I have this problem happening to me. Please come in. She invites me in. I go into the house. And I was like, so what's going on? And she's like, well, somebody's been using my credit card, and without my permission. I don't know who it is. They have my credit card numbers. They've been making all these purchases. I don't know who it is. So I got to take a report now.
Okay.
And the first step, I'm asking her, okay, hey, can you provide me copies of your transaction history on your credit card?
Yeah.
And we'll identify the transactions that were yours, and we'll identify the transactions that were not yours.
Yeah.
And therefore, I can get an exact value based on those transaction histories of what the damage was. And she's like, yeah, of course. Before I grab that, can I offer you something to drink? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. What do
Got
you
any
have?
beers in the fridge?
Yeah, no, she didn't say that. She goes, oh yes, well, I did just get a shipment from Amazon. Lots of tea. I have lots of tea. Would you like any tea? I have spearmint. I have this other flavor. I have this berry, this and that. And I was like, spearmint, that sounds fine. Just remember, there were 2 times in the 8 years that I worked in Lakewood, where I actually accepted drinks, because you're never supposed to accept any food or drink from anyone for any reason, no matter the call. And there was once where I did it where I was, it was a burning hot summer day, and this guy offered me a Gatorade, and you could tell it was sealed, and it was just his car was stolen. I took his report. That was it, And he's like, you want a fruit punch Gatorade? I was like, heck yeah, I want a fruit punch Gatorade. It looks good. And this particular day, she's like, you want some tea? I was like, yeah, I'll have some tea.
Yeah,
And she's like, yeah, I just actually ordered lots of tea from Amazon. And, I got this flavor and that flavor. I picked spearmint, blah, blah, blah. Get the tea. She brings it out. And then she's like, oh, yeah, let me go grab my transaction history. I'll print it off for you off my computer. I was like, all right, thank you very much. So she goes out. She leaves the room. So I'm sitting there. I'm in our living room. I start looking around. And I'm sitting at the kitchen table. And right in front of me is this very strange painting. And what it is, it's like it's all native, it's all Indians like folklore, and it looks almost like an Indian catcher painting, which you see Indian dream catchers paint it or in real life, but you never see them painted like a picture of one. But above that were the words, "Don't trust him," and it just said, "Don't trust him," and I'm like, what is she doing with that? Don't trust who? Why would you buy that? I don't know. And she comes back. I'm still drinking the tea that she had just given me. And she gives me the transaction history. Of course, I see the Amazon purchases that she was talking about. Oh, yeah, Amazon. Okay, yeah, you made this purchase of tea, yeah. And I'm like, what about this one? And she says, oh, yeah, that's not my purchase. This one's not my purchase. And it was weird because I saw this one that was for what's that main dating website, eHarmony, all these other things, that she was paying for. She goes, no, that's my purchase, So now I know she's living by herself. And she points at this one purchase. She goes, that's not mine. And but she had just so many Amazon purchases. She goes, yeah, I just love Amazon, as you can see. And because I made a comment about it, oh, you buy a lot of stuff here. And she goes, yeah, I just got all my favorite Roald Dahl books that just came in. And I was like, oh, I love Roald Dahl. I was like, it's funny because when I was in middle school, my favorite Roald Dahl story was called The Landlady. And it was about this English traveler, and it was a story I just told you. And I was like, and he shows up at the house, and he asks for a place to stay, and she offers him some tea. I realized I was drinking tea that she had offered me. Not that it was anything super coincidence, but she goes, "Oh, really? I've never read that before." And I said, "Really? You're a huge."
Shut your lying ass.
I said, "You're a huge Roald Dahl fan, and you've never read The Landlady?" She goes, "No, I've never read that before." But I continue. I tell her what it's about.
Yeah.
And I tell her the story I told you guys. And I said, yeah, so anyway, he's staying at this hotel, right? And she goes, you mean a bed and breakfast? And I said, yeah, it was a bed and breakfast. Yeah, it was a bed and breakfast with that old lady that lived there.
She knew.
She corrected me. And I was like, yes, it as a matter of fact, it was. I was like, you never read the story? And she says, no, I've never read it. And but I was like, how did you? And she's like, I don't know. And so it was such a weird moment, It was super weird. And she continues telling me about these other purchases on her card. So she tells me she was a teacher in middle school after that. And I said, oh, you're a teacher? And it was like 1 o'clock that day. I was like, so aren't you supposed to be in school? You know, like, don't you have a class to be teaching? And she's like, oh, well, I recently got fired. I was like, oh, you got fired? I was like, well, I'm not going to. And she was like, no, it's okay. And I told her, I was like, I'm just surprised that you were a teacher in middle school and you'd never read that story, you know, because that's like something that's covered. She goes, well, I was fired because one of the students thought that I was the devil. And I said, wait, you were fired because one of the students thought that you were the devil? She said, yeah, well, he tried to kill me. And I was like, wait a minute, a student tried to kill you and you got fired. How does that work? She's like, yeah, well, he brought a knife to school and he was telling the other students that I was the devil. And he was one day going to bring his knife out and kill me, which he brought to school. I found out about it through other students that he was going to do this. And we called the police.
Wow.
They came down. Something happened with administration at the school. She ended up getting canned for whatever reason, which that was as far as I could dig, and without sounding like I was digging, basically. And so she says, I'm like writing information for her report still. And she asks me, she goes, do you want me to sharpen that pencil? And I was like, it was weird, dude. Like, I was like, no, I'm good, you know? Like, I was holding a pencil, but it was like a number 2, you know? So I'm like, what, do you want to try to stab me in the neck with this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's okay. And so she's just starting to be weird. And then the kicker. I start listening to her stories about how she was this one teacher, and I start looking around the room. I start to notice there's birds in the room. And I ask her this one particular bird that's in this like glass cabinet. I'm like, is that? And she goes, oh, it's a stuffed bird. My brother's a taxidermist. And at this point, I'm just like thinking she's like living the life of the landlady,
yeah,
you know? And above and below that bird are all these other birds in doll heads, like just cut up doll heads with like their eyes poked out and like just like stuffing.
What a weirdo. Just
weird stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, I start to actually feel very dizzy at this point when I see that. And I'm thinking I need to get out of this house because this lady is living the life of the landlady and she's going to try to kill me.
Yeah.
Or she's already poisoned me and I need to report this. And I'm doing everything I can to like stand up. I almost feel like I couldn't walk.
Wow.
Yeah. And at this point, I've gotten most of the information I need. And all I have to do is go back to my car, use the computer to pull a report number, get that report number, write it on a piece of paper, called a report memo, give it to her, saying that I've come out, I've taken a report, I've talked to you, I've asked you the questions, and I'm done. So I go back to my car, and I'm finally able to get out of there, and I'm starting to sweat real bad. And I go back to the house, and she's like, can I offer you more tea? And I'm just like, no, I'm just giving your report member. She's like, please come in for more tea. Oh. And dude, I don't think that, I don't know. I feel like she put something in the tea. Yeah. I do. And from what she told me was that she had gotten fired, you know, from the school. And she said that she had also included in that story that she was not happy with any kind of sheriff's department, or basically she said she was unhappy with law enforcement. And at that point, I became uncomfortable that she was retaliating. She was hoping I was going to be a deputy. She was basically hoping that she could poison me, kill me. In a way to retaliate, she was like this last leg of hope, trying to go on eHarmony, God knows what. But I can't disclose her name here. But I ended up writing down her name and turning in that report and reporting to the station what had happened.
Yeah.
And through my own investigation, I ended up looking up on Google her name. And her name came up. through a YouTube link, and she had a YouTube page, and all of her videos are of her at the riverbed by herself, talking to birds. She records herself talking to birds and feeding them, and very strange conversations. And through my eyes now, very sinister. Like, it was very creepy, and I will never forget her or her first name, because it was the first name of somebody that I knew very well at that time. And who I was disclosing all this information, like telling them the story and what was happening. And then we would look up and be like what's going on? We wanted to like go to the house and like just think like what's back there and like how many bodies, you know. But that story, that probably happened, I think 2 years ago. And when I was getting those sweats, when I thought I had been poisoned, you think that's it, you know, because, you know, like in the mall story, I thought I was gonna get shot, but at this point I thought I had been poisoned. You know, I thought like that shot had already been taken, and now it was just a matter of time. And the strange thing is, you know, even going back to the car at that time and just saying I'm gonna get the report number, and I feel that my energy slowly leaving my body, I'm going to die at this point. I didn't know for sure, but at the same time it's still scary. And who knows what it was? I don't know. You know, it's just maybe that second dose,
Maybe she's putting some like NyQuil in
that second tea could have taken my life. I don't know, but that really scared me, and I thought I was gonna die. And that's that.
Dude, your stories are way scarier than mine.
Well, a lot of mine are like based on things that have like I really, really, really thought I was gonna die, and a lot of yours are like life events where it's like that was scary, you know, like, you know. So it's just like what it's just whatever to you is scary, you know. And
yeah, man. I was gonna go over like another story of back when we didn't have GPS in our cars, and do you remember those back in the days when you either had a Thomas guide, which I was never raised with Thomas guide. I was more like my dad's era, but we had just printouts from what was that website?
MapQuest.
MapQuest, thank you.
Yeah.
So I was MapQuesting an event that my friends were having in Long Beach, and I was gonna go cruise down there and, you know, just go hang out and just, you know, see what was going on. So
Right.
I was going down, it was like 405, 605 to 405 to the 710. And then the 710, I was going to go to Long Beach, but I took the wrong exit. And I got mixed up in the ports. Mm-hmm. If you've never been in the ports of Long Beach at like 11 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
it's pretty freaking scary, dude. So I took the wrong turn.
Scary black man.
There's a black guy going to my side. So I took the wrong turn, and I'm in my old truck, you know. And
This is a movie, by the way, Wrong Turn.
Yeah, dude, totally. And the ports are pretty crazy because it's like even now, like I got lost down there going to my friend Jay and Lauren's wedding, like not too long ago, and like even GPS is like make a left. You're like, there's no left here. Like, There's like it's all under construction. Like, and there's just. This one night, I took a turn, and I'm just going down this long, dark road, and like I come to like to where all the ports are, and I'm just like, dude, there's no way through here. Like I definitely took the wrong turn, so I go back and I take another wrong turn, and I'm just like cruising around. It's just dark, and I'm looking at my gas tank, and it's almost empty.
2 miles till empty.
I'm like, oh my god. I'm going to get freaking lost down here. First off, I didn't have a cell phone. Mm-hmm. Second of all, I didn't have GPS. And third of all, I didn't have gas.
Right.
I'm just freaking out.
You don't know where to go.
I don't know where to go. Like, there's no, like, Waze where you're just like, come on, Waze, take me home. It's like, make a left here. Like, thanks, Waze.
The funny thing is, in my head, I'm thinking, why didn't you just take Waze? And then I'm thinking, dude, he's going off a piece of paper with, like...
This is like 12, 13, 14 years ago.
With the ambers that are just built into the car, you know, barely any light.
So I come up to this like, there's like this post, and I'm just like, I cruise up, and I'm in my big old 1976 Chevy pickup, and it's just all loud. It's like, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, and I just see this post, and there's this black dude, and he's in like this like post. I'm like, excuse me, sir, and he didn't say anything. I'm like, hello, and he's just like, I don't know if he's like looking at me or if he's like maybe watching like a little TV or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man. So I turn off my car, and like I walk out, and I like walk up to the post, and he's just like staring at the screen. I'm like, he's like spooky, dude. I'm like, hello, and he's just like, he just looks up like, like I was like, whoa,
His eyes
like
were
just
green.
like like, what you looking at, boy? And I'm like, excuse me, sir, and he's just like, what you need? And I was like, I need some direction, man. I'm lost. I don't know where I'm going. I have no gas. Like, dude, please, please help me, like, get out of here and get me back to, like, the 710. And he gives me, like, these, like, ghetto directions. It's like, make a left up here at the light. There's a stop sign. You make a right. You make a left. You make a right. And, like, whatever the directions were.
Kind of like Leroy.
And, like, yeah. And, thank God that guy wasn't some serial killer and just like, you know, sent me some random direction. But thank God, like it was probably like a good hour that I was lost down there, because I was going this way. Oh, it's not that way. And I took the wrong turn, and then like finally I came back. The guy gave me some good directions, and then I got back on the road. But dude, not knowing where you're going, not having any gas and like any direction, and no phone. That's freaking terrifying, dude. Like,
for sure.
You just like you don't know. Like, dude, I can just get lost down here. What if I like and in my head I'm thinking like, what if I run out of gas? Then what? Like, I have to walk somewhere. I have no gas can.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, what if I take the wrong turn and like I have nobody to call.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know where I'm at. Mm-hmm. That's freaking terrifying to me. So my last scariest moment that I wrote down. And these are so out of order, and this is definitely probably not the scariest moment, but I was 20 years old, and I was working at In-N-Out at the time, and there's this little bar next door called the Hideaway. Mm-hmm. You ever been there?
Yes.
Lakewood. And I knew some girls. They're like, hey, we're gonna go cruise over to the Hideaway and go shoot some pool. We know the owners. And they're cool with letting us in. We're just going to shoot pool. We're all underage at this time. So the bouncer lets us in. I was like, why don't we go see if we can get a drink, too, you know? So we're already inside. They're like, what do you want? You know, like, oh, I'll take a beer, you know. And we start drinking, playing some pool. We're all underage. And it was great. We had a great time. And end of the night, I was like, all right, guys, see you guys later. And I pull out of the driveway, and it's really dark. And the driveway that I was pulling out, I was going to go make a left. Mm-hmm. But you're only able to make a right because there was a center divider in the middle. Yeah. So I cruise out, and I go to make a left, and I see a center divider. I was like, oh, shoot. And then I was like, and I made a crazy right turn. And then go to make a U-turn at the light, and it looks like some drunk idiot like walking out of there, right?
Right.
And I was like, whew, man, that was close, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was like, whoop whoop. I was like, no, no, my God. So this cop pulls me over, and he's just like, walks up to my window, and he's like, where you going? I was like, home.
You're so fresh-faced, too, man.
And I was fresh-faced, man, and he's just like, where you coming from? I was like, the Hideaway. And he's just like, uh-huh. He's like, you been drinking tonight? No, officer. And he's like, I was like, I'm honestly 20 years old. We're friends with the owners there. They said it was cool if we played pool. Just had a couple sodas. And I thought I could make a left out of this area, but I realized that there was...
You liar.
Yeah, I was laying my ass off, dude. And I was like, I realized that there's a center divider here. I've never been out this way. He's like, oh, okay, all right. And I was like, He's like, you want to do the breathalyzer? And I was like, I'll do it, but I haven't been drinking tonight. He's like, promise? I was like, yeah. You know, he checked my ID, ran my plates, clean. He's like, all right, man, have a good night. And just let me go.
Mm-hmm.
My heart had sank to my bottom of my chest. It was just like, I can't say that I was like drinking. I can't say anything like
That was good though. I like how you said that. Like, I'll do it, but I haven't been drinking.
Yeah.
You know,
I was
because
like, yeah, man, I'll do it, but I haven't been drinking. I'm not even old enough. Like,
right.
You know, at that point, it was probably the bar's fault for letting us in and drinking. Like at
Yeah.
that point, but
They broke the law by giving you alcohol. And they checked your ID over there?
no. Oh no, they did, but we told them we were just playing pool, and then we went and shot pool. And then I was like, hey, let's go get some drinks, you know, while we're in here.
Because once you're in, you're in.
Once you're in, you're in. And then the security isn't looking at you like, you know, they're outside, you know. I was like, we're in, dude.
Yeah.
We're in the bar right now. You know, you're just 20 years old. You're just like, woo, we're getting away with murder.
That's cool. Have you ever scared somebody, though? That's a good one. Have you ever scared anybody that you know, like, really bad? Because I remember the time I probably scared somebody really bad.
Yeah.
And it was when I was in junior college. And there was a bar also that we used to go to called the Thirsty Isle. And then I used to go to Long Beach City College. And my friend David
That
Sivert.
place is cool. I've been there.
My buddy David Sivert.
I won some shuffleboard against Chris and Andrea
It's a
that
fun
night.
place.
It's cool.
We went there with some of our friends after school, and I think this was the last day of the semester, you know. So whether it's summertime or you're transferring, or you're leaving the school, it's a good time to go to that bar, and you go over there, the home of the 32-ounce schooner. And
That place
David
is
would
such a shithole.
David would tell me, you know, he was always very paranoid. You know, his told me his dad was a cop. You know, he didn't ever want to like drink and drive, and he had a motorcycle. And so I remember this night in particular, he dropped off his motorcycle, and I had my truck at the time, and you know, I picked him up. We went to the bar. You know, school was over. We're celebrating. Now I gotta, you know, at the end of the night, I gotta drop him off at his house. And of course, start driving home. And I'm thinking, what can I tell David that could just scare him, you know? And I was like, you know, David, you know, we become pretty good friends. I was like, you know, I've got some dark stuff that I want to tell you. And he's like, yeah, man, no, for sure. I'll never tell anybody. And I was like, well, there was one night where I had just come back from the same bar, and I was like, this is the only reason I'm telling you, because it's all coming back to me. I don't know if it was a homeless person, or, you know, if it was a dad, you know, out in the middle of the night, but it was the same street that we're on right now. And when I was driving down, I accidentally ran them over. I was like, I stopped. I pulled the car over, and I went and I checked the pulse, and they were dead. And I said, but...
You're such a dick.
Yeah. And I was like, honestly, I kept driving. I left and I went back home. I never reported it. I don't know if, you know, since we're so close to your house, your dad ever told you about that. And I was like, but that was me. And he for sure was like, no, dude, I think I do remember. I think I do remember like a hit and run, and then, you know, the person died, and, you know, it was like this person, and then no one ever reported like that they were the ones that did it or anything like that. You know, humans do that. Yeah, you just put two and two together, and now he feels like he remembers. Yeah, somebody that had been hit by a car died. No one reported it. You know, and that person was just off the record. And I said that was me. He believed the whole thing, you know, and he was all scared and everything like that. And I just remember at the end of the night, you know, I was dropping him off, and then he shut the door. And he looks back through the window. He's like, "Dude, don't worry, dude. I'm not gonna say anything about that." And I was like, and I'm like, "David,
Dad, guess what?"
Yeah, and I'm like, but I made sure I told him, David, I'm joking. I didn't run anyone over. And the funny thing was, I told the same thing to Bella my girlfriend. You know, like when we first started dating, I was like,
No way.
Yeah, I scared her with the same story. I was like, yeah, I ran this person over, but this time I turned it into me and my buddy David were in a car.
I mean, David did all the running over.
We ran this guy over. You know, she's like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, we never reported it. You know, we didn't say anything.
Like, oh, you bad
and she didn't know what to say. And she didn't say anything. But the strange thing is, that's not like a total game killer either. You know, like she didn't say like, let me out of the car right now.
She's like, well, you're white.
That wasn't the end of the line. So I just ended up telling her, I'm like, Bella, I'm joking. You know, like, no, I didn't kill anybody. And then she's like, oh my God, that's so funny.
I don't know what I would have done.
But anyways.
That was, that's some great content, man. That's a lot of good digging that you and I both did this week.
It was. And the fact that you went into like 10, and I didn't think you were going to go that far. It was good stuff. It was good stuff to think back on. And, you know, it really made me think, like, what was the scariest thing that, because then you have to, like, remember, you know, like, what really scared you.
Yeah.
You know, so, but anyway, dude, like, what do you think about Halloween in general? Like, are you, like, a huge fan, or?
Halloween's fun, man. When we were little kids, our parents were very conservative, so, like, they didn't really want us going out trick-or-treating and stuff, so we would always go to, like, church and, like, that stuff. As we started getting older, my brother and I were always into, like, scaring each other, other people. So we would set up, like little stuff on the porch, or we would scare neighbors. Like, we would set up masks, like, fake stuff. We were, like, super into, like, getting, like, strobe lights and black lights and fog machines and, like, having, like, our own little production.
We used to actually get a, that's good that you mentioned that. With the trick-or-treating was Tommy would sit on the porch, and we would have, like, what looked like a fake. We would like actually have a fake dummy. So Tommy would actually be dressed up like a like in an all black robe with a mask. But then we would have your feet would be like these two shoes.
Yeah.
But they would be in front of the robe, and they wouldn't really be on your feet. So people would say, fake. "Oh, that's just fake," you know. But then the catch was that you were holding the bowl of candy.
Yeah.
And so it's like
we had to sound like take one candy.
Yeah, they'd be like thinking, wait, is this a freaking person that's trying to scare me? That's
take
just
all
gonna,
this candy.
Is this a person that's gonna try to scare me? But then they'd see the two shoes in front of the robe, so they could tell.
It was a dead giveaway. It was fake.
Yeah, it looked fake, and then they would go for the candy, and then you would jump, and then they'd be like,
grab them.
Yeah, it'd be like 10 girls just like frozen, just running away.
Yeah,
way before that. But that was fun, dude. Like I've always loved like also the Halloween themed stuff and everything, and. Dude, I was so stoked that this Halloween, like, and dude, how long has Michael Jackson been dead?
Forever.
For like 7, 8, 9 years. He died in, I think, 2009. But as a huge Michael Jackson fan, I was stoked that he actually came out with a brand new record, or you know, the production company came out with a brand new record. And are you familiar with Steve Aoki?
Steve Aoki?
Steve Aoki?
Steve Aoki is the shit.
Yeah, dude, he is, man.
I've seen that guy live a couple times. He's a huge EDM artist. I'm surprised that you even know him. He has an amazing special on Netflix.
Yes, dude, he does. The Asian guy.
My favorite part about that Netflix special, what's it called? I forget what it's called, but just seeing his work ethic.
Yeah.
That dude, like, doesn't sleep.
He doesn't.
He just does show after show after show. What's cool about him is, in that documentary that I didn't know, is his dad was the founder of Benihana.
Oh, okay.
The restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And, like, his dad was, like, this huge dude. He did, like, race speedboats, and, like, he lived a crazy life. Mm-hmm. Not married to his mom, but when Steve grew up, like, I think he, like, tried to, like, mimic, like, his dad. And, like, now he's, you know, doing, like, his EDM scenes. But, dude, that documentary was so freaking good, man.
It was.
Like, if you haven't seen that, you know what it's called?
I don't know. But the reason that I brought him up was because he remixed Michael Jackson's Thriller song.
Yeah.
And I just got the new record that came out for Michael Jackson. It's called Scream.
Okay.
Dude, it's awesome. So it has like has all of Michael's.
His Netflix special is called "I'll Sleep When I'm Dead."
I saw it.
It's really good.
The Asian guy Steve Aoki.
Yeah.
Yo, he remixed Thriller But this record that Michael Jackson, the new Michael Jackson record came out. It's all of Michael's dark songs, like, and scary songs. So like you got like This Place Hotel, Thriller, Blood on the Dance Floor.
What's your favorite?
Torture, Somebody's Watching Me, Escape, Ghosts. I love this record, dude. I already bought it from Target. My favorite song on here is probably the original Thriller, because it's not, obviously Michael Jackson can't come out with new content because he's dead, but this record, if you buy it through like Amazon and you get like the Steve Aoki remix of Thriller, it's awesome. Yeah, dude, and like the Vincent Price voiceovers and everything. But then you get all the originals too. So like Somebody's Watching Me, which was Berry Gordy's son, who recorded Somebody's Watching Me, and then he had Michael Jackson come out and do the chorus on it. And so Berry Gordy's singing like, he's like, when I'm in the shower, I'm afraid to wash my hair. And then Michael Jackson comes in with the chorus, and he's like, I always feel like somebody's watching me. I like that song. That's probably the second runner-up.
You bought that album?
I bought it. I'm holding it in my hands right now, dude.
Hell yeah,
this
dude.
is the Scream record by Michael Jackson.
Oh, we're listening to that shit tonight.
Yeah, dude. So I love it. And then when I was at Target buying that, I bought a movie. This isn't super Halloween related, but it's a classic movie that we were raised on. This movie, and I don't say the name of it, but it has to do with a wizard and a Tin Man, a Scarecrow, and a
I bet you
Cowardly
guys can't
Lion.
even guess.
Dude, The Wizard of Oz. What is we were raised on the VHS copy of this movie, and I guess I kind of forgot how great it was. But I watched it last night with my girlfriend, and it was like, oh, The Wizard of Oz. I don't know that. Huh?
1939.
1939 that movie came out.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and it was like the first movie that was like one of the first movies that was in color and black and white. And dude, I watched it. The movie,
It's a great movie.
I watched it last night. The movie's very well done. And The Wicked Witch of the East or the West, I was looking up like the worst villains of all time.
East side, west side.
I was looking up top villains of all time, and she kept coming up. I'm like, dude, it's true, dude. Like,
she's a bad bitch.
Yeah, remember like at end of the movie, Dorothy's like looking into the crystal ball when she got captured by the Wicked Witch of the West, and she's like trying to like talk to her Auntie M. She's like, Auntie M. And then the witch pops up in the crystal ball, and she goes, yeah, Auntie M. Yeah, help me, save me. And she's like mocking her.
It's kind of a dark movie.
It is a dark movie, dude.
Yeah.
That movie is kind of scary, right? Like
it's low-key dark for its time.
This movie is great, man. Like, and so The Wizard of Oz on DVD, dude, like, great movie. I haven't watched it for maybe 15 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's been.
probably
When's the
been
last
about
time you
that
watched this? Because I have the DVD. When's the last time you watched this movie? And
maybe 10 years ago.
aren't you like the fact that it's been out for 80 years now? Man.
And it's there, and people are still buying it like you.
But I just said I'm gonna go to Target, and I'm gonna buy the new Michael Jackson record, and if they have The Wizard of Oz,
Because you're a Michael Jackson super fan.
I was like, if they have The Wizard of Oz, I'm gonna buy it. And sure enough, they had it. But that's crazy to think that they just have it because enough people still think of that movie to go out and buy it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's
100%.
crazy. Yeah, it's nuts, man. Like that movie, they had they were well stocked with copies of Wizard of Oz, but
It's a classic, man.
yeah. Anyway, look, we've brought you guys the thrills, the scares tonight. Let us know what you think. Obviously, you can find us on Stitcher, you can find us on iTunes, and now we are on YouTube and we are on Google Play.
Yes.
We're
Go
out
find
there.
us, man. We're everywhere. We're coming at you from all angles.
That's right.
And
all angles.
man, we're so excited seeing like the numbers, seeing the amount of people downloading our podcast. Just share it with your friends, guys. Like, if people that want to have a good laugh, or just enjoy stories and like reminiscing on good stuff, and we have all kinds of like crazy new awesome stuff coming your way. Like, share it with your friends. Like, we 100% appreciate that. And
yeah, dude, and don't forget, dude, if you guys have something to say, you got a bone to pick, call the Eynon Brothers podcast.
That's right, guys. We have our own freaking Eynon Brothers podcast hotline.
562-291 0036. Call the Eynon Brothers Hotline.
Call us and leave a message. Like, leave us a funny story, and if we think it's hilarious, we're gonna play it on our podcast. So,
all right, guys, that's it for tonight.
Appreciate
Happy
the support.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween, baby.